Now, we've talked about building web pages from scratch and using elements like assets to help you quickly and easily organize and plug in your content that you might have on any aspect of your website. Now, once you've designed a website, it's going to look great. Your client will hopefully be happy. But you've really only just begun, because before you can launch your site, you have a lot of pages to build. You might have built a few to get started, but some websites have hundreds of different pages that apply to them. And once that site's online, you want to keep it fresh and inviting. And so oftentimes a lot of updates have to occur. This happens particularly with retail sites. So this is where Dreamweaver's snippets and library features come into play, because these can streamline some of the more tedious work with building and updating pages of your website. As you create more pages, crafting the same page elements over and over again can become tedious. Many pages share elements that are always going to stay the same. This can be a copyright notice or a navigation bar or a logo or, a header, anything like that. So it doesn't make sense to keep recreating that over and over again when you could make it once and then just plug it in where you need it. So thanks to Dreamweaver, recreating this stuff is unnecessary. The program features two subtly different tools that let you reuse common page elements: snippets and library items. Snippets have its own little tab. Library items is located under assets down here. So we'll talk about snippets first. These aren't fancy, aren't complex, but they do save time. A snippet is simply a chunk of code that you store away and then put into your web pages as you need it. So this can be boilerplate information, simple HTML stuff, CSS formatting rules, or JavaScript code. So as an example, if you always use the same type of table to list product specifications in your company's catalog, you could set that up as a template and then save it in your snippet and then just put it in where you need it as you go. So if the snippets panel isn't visible for you, come up to Window and Snippets. You can check it right here. When you first open up the snippets panel, you're going to see a set of stock Dreamweaver snippets, but you can add to that collection by building your own. Now, some snippets come in a couple different varieties: those that are using simple blocks of code and those that are intended to wrap around a selected element in an HTML document. So as an example, I'll click on HTML snippets. So if you want to quickly add some dummy text, I know in the past I was using some fun bacon-related dummy text, but if you just want to add dummy text in, all you have to do is click and drag it in from the snippets panel, and it will automatically throw that in. It's not going to format it. You would want to, I guess in this case, put like a P tag around it so that it can be edited should you want to edit that. But otherwise, it's literally a drag and drop or a double click, and it will plug that information in. And then you just have to edit it how you need it. So with the email link, it automatically says email us. It gives a fictional email address, so you would certainly want to update that to best suit whatever the email you wanted to send it to. They have a, a dummy navigation bar, a quick form, very quick. And you'll notice this puts the form field in for your name, your email address, password. If you want a drop-down menu, it'll put one in for you. And then you can edit this however you need to. So this just takes a lot of that formatting stuff out of the way for you. So all you have to do is put it in and then tweak it to suit whatever the needs are that you happen to have. Some of these snippets that Dreamweaver provides to you, and you'll notice there's a lot. Some of them are CSS effects or animation transitions. There's some bootstrap elements and they're grouped. There's JavaScript PHP, and some pre-processing stuff. So these are all presets, but these won't always fit every need that you happen to have. So you can easily create your own snippets. So here's how you do that. Let's say you want to make a snippet out of this navigation that we've produced previously. You will want to select all of the content that pertains to that snippet. So I want to include the header and the navigation just to get me started. So I've selected my H1 and my UL tag and all the content inside of it. And then in the snippets panel, down here at the bottom, there are some icons. So I'm going to click the one that allows me to make a new snippet. So that's going to open up a window, and this is where I get to control how, how it's going to appear. So I'll give it a name, Bacon website header and navigation. I can give it a description. This can describe not just what it is, but how to use it, like whether or not it wraps to a selection. Trigger key, if I want to just press a button, I can actually set up a trigger key to hit a button and insert it. I don't think that's necessary here. And I'll click OK. So there is a folder called My Snippets that is going to show you what that looks like. So now and I'll clean this page up a little bit. So I'll delete the stuff that I don't want to use. Or just clear it up so that you can see what I'm doing a little easier. There we go. So now, just double click. It doesn't place in the style. I would need to attach my style sheet to the page. So Bacon navigation. There's the navigation. I'd need to bring in the style sheet for the rest of the page. But there we go. Now, I would need to do a little bit of tweaking because you can see it did condense some of those styles in a way that's not very attractive, but it didn't take a lot of extra work. I've got another navigation here that I made at some point as well. So if you need to edit a snippet, like changing the code, the snippet type, the name, any of that stuff, all you have to do is come back to that snippet, select it, and there's an icon down here that looks similar to the new snippet icon, but it's got like a little pencil next to it where I can edit the snippet, and this just opens it up so that you can go in and tweak the code. So if you style it on another page, you could just take that one, copy the previous HTML, and plug it in wherever you need corrections to be made, if they need to be made. Or maybe I just change, maybe we don't offer fish anymore, so I just want to delete that out of the equation entirely and hit OK. Keep in mind, if you edit a snippet, that doesn't change what's on your page, that only changes the snippet itself. To keep your snippets organized, you can make your own folders and store them by category. I could make my own snippet folder here, and you can group folders inside of folders. So if you want to customize, I'll try to delete this. Yes. If you want to customize your snippets by project or by type of website and then subcategorize those further, you can do so. To move a snippet out of a folder, all you have to do is click and drag, and you can see that it's easy to put it in a new folder also. Something to keep in mind, storing lots of snippets can slow down the snippets panel response time. So if there are presets that you don't intend to ever use, you can remove the ones that you don't want. There used to be, at one point, a folder called the Legacy folder that had a lot of really old snippets, but those are out of date, and it appears with the newest update to the Creative Cloud that they removed that. So that did speed up some processing time a little bit. A few helpful snippets that are built in that you might enjoy using or at least want to kind of play with are some of the CSS effects and snippets. Some examples, I'll go ahead and grab my image here. They've got options to adjust the brightness and contrast of an image using CSS or converting an image to grayscale. I'll go ahead and I've selected my image. I'll go ahead and insert that. Now you can see some of the visuals you can just drag and drop in, but with the CSS, you're not going to drag it to your document because that's just going to plug the CSS into the HTML, which is not what we're looking for. But I'll come on into my bacon.css, this particular chunk of CSS. So I just click it, select where I want to place it. There we go. Now you notice it's giving me a little bit of an error. I think part of that has to do with the fact that I've already got an image tag. So I'm just going to place that down here and remove the extra image tag. And you can see that it took all those image tags and converted them to grayscale. Not the whole page, just the images themselves, because image tag. So that can be helpful if that's a route you'd like to take. They've got one for sepia as well, creating a box shadow. We've got one around these already, but there's an add-in there. So there's several things that can affect text, like drop caps, shadows beneath text, saturation of an image. But they've got other ones as well. So center a background image could be really helpful. Adding a fixed footer to make sure it doesn't scroll could be really helpful. So this, I would definitely recommend that you kind of explore some of these options. Adding a favicon to a web page. A favicon is, I'll open a browser real quick. A favicon is the little icon that pops up at an open tab every time you open a tab in a web page. So there's lots of useful. Again, you probably won't use everything that's here, but if you are exploring Bootstrap, for instance, you could potentially add in Bootstrap elements that could help you, design just a little bit quicker. Those are snippets. If I come back over to assets and click on my library item, this is similar to snippets. So an example, let's say you manage a relatively large website that consists of thousands of pages, and at the bottom of each page is a simple copyright notice that says, copyright Bacon the Candy of Meats Company, whatever. Each time you add another page, you could retype the copyright message, but that invites typographical errors. You're going to be doing a lot of typing. We want to, get the job done as quickly and easily as possible. So fortunately, Dreamweaver's library feature can turn anything that you select in a document window, so this can be a paragraph, a picture, a table, into a reusable chunk of HTML that you can drop into any document. So some differences between library items and snippets. Library items have added power. When you add HTML to a web page using a library item, that code remains linked to the original item. So unlike where I made some changes to what navigation I was including and it didn't update here, any changes made to library items will automatically filter through the rest of the pages using it. Compared to snippets, library items are smart. They possess the unique ability to update the same material on an entire site's worth of files in seconds, and can successfully deal with links and images as well. Unlike the snippets feature, however, Dreamweaver's library feature is site-specific. So every site you set up in Dreamweaver has its own library, and Dreamweaver stores the library's files along with the site's other files. So if you need to use a library item on a different site, you would have to copy that item to the new site. we'll turn my footer here into a library item. I've got that selected. I'll come down to library. I'll click new library item. The new item appears in the assets panel under the library, and it gives you like a little preview up here of what it's going to look like. So I'll give it a name. I'll call it my copyright. Update links. It's going to adjust to the name. If you take a look at, and I know it's a little down here, but it's going to update the link that it's applied. So I'll go ahead and say update. So you'll notice a couple different things. That text is highlighted in yellow. That's not going to show up in live view or when you publish the page. That's only there to show you what is a library item. You'll also notice in the HTML that there's a comment highlighted in gray showing where the library item is. So essentially what that means is unless I delete it, I can't change what that says without coming into the assets panel and editing the original. And that'll open it up in its own document how I can edit that. You'll notice that it's an extension. It's an LBI, so it's a library file type that will save itself to the files of your website. So if I look here, now there's a library folder, and every library item associated with this website is going to be placed here for organization. So if I wanted to take that library item and bring it to another page, all I have to do is grab it, click and drag, and that'll place it in wherever I need it. That doesn't include the styles. I would need to do that separately, but it will just take that HTML and stick it wherever I need it. And this can be done with pictures, this can be done with graphics, text items, tables, any HTML code item you can do that with. So let's say the year changed. It's no longer 2017, it's 2018. Once I've updated that, all I have to do is save this ABI file. So I'll tell it to save. It's going to automatically update all the library items, update each page where that library item is used. I'll click update, update pages. I'll tell it to look at the entire site, tell it to start. And once it's finished, it'll say done. I'll say close. I'll close this. This page has updated, and this page is updated. So this can be really helpful if you need to make a lot of changes at one time, especially when it comes to like dates in the copyright notice as an example. If you need to rename it, like for instance, this says 2017 copyright, now I want to say 2018. I'll hit enter. I'll tell it to update. This just updates the link to make sure everything's matching. If you're ready to delete an item, maybe you've decided, you know what, I'm not using this anymore. You can delete it. You'll notice though that despite editing, removing that, you can't edit these until you break those links. So you would have to do that manually and detach it from the original on each page. Unfortunately, there's not a workaround for that. So what I would need to do is right click on the item that I want to alter, tell it to detach from the original. It'll tell you it won't be automatically updated. I'll click OK. It'll get rid of all that extra text. It gets rid of the highlight. Same thing here, right click, detach from original. And that's how you both delete a library item but also ensure that the content you're using will be editable later. So those are reusable page elements in a nutshell. Assets, your assets panel with the library, and then using snippets. These are really handy tools just to help speed up the process. So as time goes on, you may decide to, utilize those to assist you in just kind of keeping yourself organized and as efficient of a designer as possible. they can be very helpful in that regard.